Afternoon. The topic of my coming essay will be talking about the emotional weight and stress of unfinished projects. I was just looking around my office and I just had this feeling of overwhelm, and it's a feeling that I have been living with for a while, and I just happened to narrow it down, and I realized that it's because in a lot of the corners of this room lie, just beneath the surface, remnants of unfinished, well, not remnants, but unfinished projects. And it's not the fact that they're just unfinished. It's more the idea of, it's not like I don't get the stress when I've just got unfinished projects that I'm actively working on. These are projects that I have just run out of steam on, and I just don't know whether I'm ever going to complete them. And that just fills me with like a residual stress. It's not like it's just stress that's always there, because I essentially have to make a decision about them, and I'm not ready to make those decisions on them. Neither am I ready to work on them or to complete them. So it's just this liminal place in my head that these unfinished, unresolved projects occupy. So I decided to create an essay on this. So I will kind of walk you through how I tend to go about creating my video essays. I don't have any sort of special way that I think of topics. I just have a notebook that sits on my desk, and it's just available for me to jot down any ideas or whatever, right? At any moment, if I'm, for example, consuming content and something sparks an idea, I jot it down, and then I get enough of these, and then I just decide, I just pick one, whatever's calling me, that will be my topic. So the very first thing that I do when I have decided on my topic, or it doesn't necessarily have to be like, okay, this is going to be the title of the video, blah, blah, blah. I don't even think about that at that moment. All I think about is, what do I know about this topic? What are my existing ideas? Do I have any questions relating to that topic? Will viewers have any questions relating to that topic? So it's just a mind map. Nothing fancy. That's what I did. Well, the top is just, I've already done that one, but it's literally, I don't know how this is going to read because I'm on, but whatever. So I just have some topics. What I first wrote down to begin my mind map was unresolved projects in the middle. And then I just started to write down. So what I've got is space, and then off that I've got mind or physical space. Obviously that means like whether it's occupying, so it's the space, it occupies space in the mind, it occupies physical space. I've put possibility, I've put omnipresent, psychology, question mark, because I think that this will be quite a psychological and emotional topic, because that is my personal response to unfinished projects. So I thought that that would be quite a big topic that I could delve into. So psychology, question mark, knowing that I'm quite interested in psychology and I don't know much about it. So whenever I have a video essay topic that I can jump into, if there is a psychological aspect, I do like to explore that a little bit because it's always interesting. I've got compare with the feeling of finished projects. I've got lost momentum, question mark, too much, question mark, too many decisions, bored, stressed, production versus procrastination. So these kinds of things I just write down. So I just kind of concept vomit onto a page. The thing that I do is I create a thesis, a basic thesis, as in not really a thesis, but a question, like a topic question, right? That I can initiate some research. So in the, I just had to pause filming because my cat, I'm alone with my cat currently because my husband has taken the dog, and she has these little balls around, and she kind of demands that someone play with her. And because I'm the only one here, I have to sort of confiscate the ball just while I film. I will play with her a bit later, so she will get her playtime, but now is not playtime. So anyway. Okay, so a thesis question. So I just have an initial question. It probably will never be phrased in the way that I phrase it just to initiate the research, but it's just a starting point. So in this case, I've put, why do unresolved projects feel stressful? That is my beginning, that's my initial thesis question. So then I write that out. I either write it out physically in my notebook, or I write in my Google Docs. And then what I tend to do is pick about 3 or 4 topics from my mind map in order to initiate some research, right? So the number one that I think for this topic, that I chose for this topic, was psychology, right? Because like I said, I think it's a good place to start for when we are talking about stress or emotion. Psychology is always a good place to start. So then I create the question. So I put in to Google, why do unfinished projects feel stressful? Or a variation of that question, whatever. And then I see what Google spits out at me with regards to this topic. And then I scroll and I try to find a reputable source and see what they say. So in this case, it was the Harvard Business Review. So start there, right, and see what it says. And what I tend to do is I consult quite a few websites in that case. For this particular topic, what I'm seeing a lot is the Zeigarnik effect. And I've learned that the Zeigarnik effect was observed by a Russian psychologist called Bluma Zeigarnik, and she observed in waiters that waiters tended to remember unresolved tasks or unfinished tasks and unpaid bills. And she studied this phenomenon, and it taught her that, or taught us, or teaches us, that humans tend to more vividly remember unfinished projects and tasks compared to finished and resolved tasks. So that's a snippet of information that I will be sure to include in my video essay. And I go on like this for my research. So then I go on and read up a bit more on the psychology, and then I go on to my next, and I write that all down. So I write it all. I tend to, at this point, simultaneously, while I'm researching, I also tend to work on my script. So that's the very first draft. So that involves creating paragraphs or chapters. So if, for example, I choose 3 or 4 topics, so in this case, for this particular essay, I have chosen psychology. The second topic for research was decisions, so making decisions, because as I talked about, one of the reasons why I feel stress is because I have to make decisions on the projects. I have to either decide to continue the project, or I have to decide what to do with the project if I do not finish, if I choose not to finish it. So that is almost like decision fatigue, right? Third one, it was comparison to finished project. That involves exploring ideas surrounding unresolved versus resolved, what that means for our mental state and how we relate to the projects in question. My final topic was, what does all this say about productivity? So because this channel deals with creativity, all aspects of creativity, so I feel like productivity is not quite the antithesis, but it kind of stands in duality with creativity. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the relationship is between creativity and productivity, but I feel like there is some kind of relationship there. So if I have the opportunity to try to explore that further, I'm going to take it. So then, so what I tend to do, once I have all my topics ready for research, I then try simultaneously to work on my script with regards to, okay, I have found a suitable amount of research relating to psychology, so I feel like that could be a chapter in my essay. So what I will do next is I would either create a psychological question, not quite a question that like why do unresolved projects feel stressful, not quite that broad, but more of a thesis question or a subtitle. So what I'm after is a subtitle for the name of the chapter. So as you I don't know if you remember, but in my video essays I like to have ideas organized by chapters. So I work on that and I write that down. So that's the name of my chapter, and I put that down in my Google Docs. So I use Google Docs to write out my script. Most of my content tends to be scripted because when I am just speaking off the cuff, like I'm doing now, I do tend to forget a lot of the information and a lot of the things that I want to say, and I'm not as fluid when I speak when I haven't scripted my videos. So I do tend to spend quite a bit of time with scripting. And secondly, also what I do simultaneously while I'm researching, while I'm scripting, I also think about my visuals. I might phrase the research and the script in one, and then I think, oh, what could I show on screen to illustrate this point? Now, I will either use B-roll, like my own personal B-roll. If it's something like relating to knitting, I might just take footage, either physically go and film it myself, or I will look into my archives and see if I have anything that I've already filmed or I've already made myself, and then that will be chucked in to illustrate the point. Or another app that I love is Keynote for my essays. With Keynote, I tend to use that app for motion graphics or stop motion graphics. It's a very underutilized tool, I feel, because once you can navigate your way around it, which is pretty easy. If you can use like PowerPoint or something like that, it's pretty easy, it's pretty straightforward. And plus there are some really good channels that do very good tutorials on Keynote on YouTube. So if you are a content creator as well and you haven't used Keynote for Apple, what are you doing with your life? I love it. I'm currently at the point now where I have my first draft. So once I've got the majority of my research done and the first draft of my script completed, but I also need to add in a bit more visuals and phrasing. So then once I have my basic draft, so I then tend to go into my script and rephrase in order for my script to be as easy as possible to deliver. So I tend to write it in a way that includes very short sentences, so it's easy for me to deliver and it's easy for me to edit, so that I look at the script, I deliver the piece to camera, I look at the script, I deliver the piece to camera. So literally that is how I have to do it, because I'm a mess otherwise. So I do take a lot of time over the script to make sure that what I am delivering to camera feels natural, feels like me, feels like essentially talking to a friend. Because I think there is a discrepancy between the way that we write naturally and the way that we speak. I do spend a lot of time trying to make sure that what I have feels comfortable to deliver, feels very clear. When I said I'm also simultaneously thinking about the visuals. The visuals is an ongoing the visuals usually is an ongoing process, because it's not always clear what I would like to use as visuals. Sometimes it is, and I might put in red text next to the line, put a meme or side eye or whatever. I put some notes, and I usually remember, okay, this is what I want to show on screen when I deliver that line. Sometimes visuals don't come to me until I have filmed my A-roll, which is the A-roll is me delivering the script to camera, and something hits me and says, okay, let's use that as the visual. That's usually how I create my essays. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? And as I said, creating thumbnails. I know that some creators usually they have a great idea for a thumbnail, and they work backwards. So they begin with the idea for the thumbnail, and then the idea for the video comes later, which, I mean, whatever works for them, right? But usually for me, the thumbnail is the afterthought, and it probably shouldn't, because that is how your content is packaged up. So I should probably spend more time thinking about my thumbnail, because if your thumbnail's bad, nobody is watching your videos. So, but if you have some ideas or feedback on how I could create better thumbnails, put it in the comments. So anyway, I am going to work now on this script. I need to create my second draft and get a move on with it so that I can film it, and essentially, oh yeah, next, then once my draft is finished, my finished script, all the research is in, I have a vague idea of the B-roll and the motion graphics and the titles, title cards, etc., how all of that is going to be. Then I have to film it, and then I have to edit it. And I think that now, in the beginning, editing did not take me long at all, but some videos, editing just takes me longer. It really just depends on, one, how I'm feeling on the day. Some days when I film, it just goes very smoothly and I'm in the zone with editing. But sometimes if I'm left with, like the last time I filmed an essay, I had about 1 hour and 20 minutes of raw footage of just piece to camera, not even talking about B-roll. This is just sat talking. And then I actually ended up with something that was like 25 minutes. So the majority of that video, it just ended up chopped. So I ended up with 25 minutes of usable footage. So not great. And it just takes ages to edit. But it is what it is. So anyway, I am going to get on with this essay. So you have a basic idea now on how I create my video essays. So I am now going to continue. If I do not check in with you again tonight, I will see you tomorrow.